describes GAMTEL as a parent body to GRTS. Looking back on what has been a very fruitful cooperation between the two institutions, DG Sanya stresses the fact that GAMTEL have never wavered in their support to GRTS.
I need to thank and commend the management of GAMTEL for having the trust in GRTS, because it's a huge sum. Taking 3.7 million and give it to GRTS, hoping that they will deliver, is another trust. Because the end is what is questionable, and it's our responsibility to deliver as we expected of us.
Sanya also took the opportunity to express appreciation to President Jammeh for his invaluable support to the institution, as well as those institutions and corporate bodies, among them NAWEC and Trust Bank Gambia Limited, for what he calls their long-standing partnership with the institution. It was the moment for the expression of final words of appreciation from the other side, not least the short statement made by Fode Sise, GAMCEL's general manager, when he says GRTS is really part of us. We have never been let down by the institution. The signing of the contract for the airing of the movie series and the Premier League football games, Sise says, will help enhance the profile of the two sides.
We are doing this for our customers. Our customers are also the customers of GRTS. We have common customers, and that is the Gambian people. You know, we are doing everything in our level best to bring the best, you know, to the doorsteps of our customers.
For the two institutions with a history of admirable partnership and cooperation, another huge investment can only serve to strengthen those bonds. The bond that binds us is unbreakable, and a venture like this one, Babukar Sanya, Managing Director of GAMTEL, stresses shows a promising future for both GRTS and GAMCEL. With Sweetest Essence set to enter the vast collection of GRTS popular movie series and coupled with the airing of the Barclays Premier League, time on the state broadcaster cannot have a better entertainment value to satisfy its many customers.
The season opens in the Potteries with a hard-fought goal of straw. First competitive match in charge for the young Portuguese at Chelsea.
For GRTS News, this is Babukar Senghor.
The people of Pirang, West Coast region, recently descended on the Vice President's groundnut farm for weeding. The hundreds of volunteers, mainly women, are looking forward to a bumper harvest. Louis Mendy saw them in action.
Amidst a sense of unity and enthusiasm, these volunteers stormed the Vice President's farm in Pirang to rid it of weeds. A 4.5-hectare piece of land cultivated with groundnut is said to be one out of the numerous farms cultivated for Ajay Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi. Having yielded the most impressive harvest out of all the farms cultivated for the Vice President during the last cropping season, this piece of land is tipped by Suleiman Gazama to do well this time around too. For volunteers, their motivation for partaking in exercises of this nature is anchored on the desire to supply the food security requirements of the population. Alassane Bojan, the chairman of the Village Development Committee, joined the farm manager in expressing his satisfaction with the turnout.
And I'm very much impressed about the turnout today. And if you can see what the germination, the crop, the way it germinates, tells you that there's unity here. If there's no unity here, you will not see, I don't think you will see a correct germination here.
As the quest for self-reliance continues to spur more and more people back to the land, the Gambia's march towards food self-sufficiency appears to be on the right course. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
The draft document on the Program for Accelerated Growth and Empowerment page is being reviewed at a two-day meeting convened by the Women's Bureau and the UNDP. Neikumba Demba has more on that story, being held under the aegis of the Women Empowerment and Gender Mainstreaming Project.
Bureau and the implementation of feasible projects has pushed the agenda forward. The Women's Bureau, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, are on a two-day active program meant to review the draft document on the Program for Accelerated Growth and Empowerment.
In choosing the instruments, methods and strategies for the attainment of the page objectives, we must be aware of the gender-based constraints or resources and technologic availability.
Officials are optimistic that the review will also spare room for the proper addressing of concerns and issues related to the welfare of women.
Gender equality and women empowerment is not only a goal in itself, but a prerequisite for the attainment of all other international goals, including the MDGs.
The forum is also expected to avail officials the opportunity to discuss challenges and iron out possible solutions to impediments to women's advancement.
You will agree with me that there is still need for more targeted and focused interventions on gender equality and women empowerment, and challenges requiring some ground still to be covered going forward.
The two-day forum will see participants deliberate on issues that borders on the welfare of women in the Gambia and adequately deliberate and validate the program for the Accelerated Growth and Empowerment document. For GRTS News, I am Deiko Madema.
Well, you can also follow that story and other GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. From there we go for a first break, but we'll be back with more news.
This Ramadan, AfriCell brings you many services to make your Ramadan a very special one. With the AfriCell Prayer Time service, now you can subscribe by typing SUB and send it by SMS to 7120 to receive an SMS reminder 5 minutes before each prayer time for $1 per day only. Also this Ramadan, you can receive different kinds of prayers on your AfriCell line with the Prayer of the Day service by simply sending a blank SMS to 7122 and receive 2 text messages containing a translated and a transliterated version of the prayer for $1 only. All this and more. With your AfriCell line, you can now listen to the Holy Quran recitation by simply calling 2153, follow the voice prompt, and dial the number of the surah you want to listen to followed by the hash key for 50 bututs per minute only. And live in your Ramadan this year with the Prayer of the Day, the Prayer Times Reminder, and the Quran recitation service from AfriCell. May all your prayers be answered.
Welcome back. The recent spate of violence and criminal activity in the Ivorian commercial capital is something the authorities there are bent on containing. The post-electoral crisis might have gone, but the residents of Abidjan still live in a climate of fear. Whilst the government is trying to deal with the unauthorized presence of soldiers and armed militia in certain areas, it is also counting on the World Bank to demobilize and reintegrate some 10,000 former combatants into the civil populace.
A growing number of violent criminal attacks in Côte d'Ivoire are encouraging the government to take action. The Ivorian Interior Minister and a Defense Ministry official are in charge of emergency measures to put an end to attacks in Côte d'Ivoire's economic capital, Abidjan.
Now the crisis is over. We no longer want to see weapons in the city. We want the city to be safe, calm, so that business can resume.
There's a climate of fear in Abidjan. Residents are increasingly afraid to go into the streets because of the attacks of the past weeks. In July, 60 people were held up in their cars. The victims are members of the Ivorian public, business people or diplomats living in Abidjan. Security problems started growing last March when a number of state-backed militia groups arrived in the city to take part in the battle for Abidjan. The authorities have decided to stop criminal activities by armed forces. Soldiers who had taken over police stations have been ordered to leave, and if they refuse, they will be sanctioned. In Makuri, soldiers have been forced out, and it's the police who are back in charge of law and order.
Today, there is no longer any question of a military commander interfering with official business or interceding in disputes between two people. It's not their responsibility. Any member of the militia who disobeys orders will be punished.
The orders are official. The unauthorized presence of soldiers or armed militias is no longer tolerated in the streets of Abidjan. According to the Ivorian Defense Minister, 10,000 former fighters will be demobilized by the end of this year. The government is counting on World Bank funding to help young men hand over their weapons and return to civilian life.
Rebel fighters in Libya have called on the country's